Boise has long been heralded as the best place to live. If you've been thinking about relocating here, you may have come across these glowing slogans and enticing rankings. Is all the hype justified? Is Boise truly the dream city it's made out to be? Or have new residents been swept up in the buzz, only to realize that life here doesn't quite match the idealized portrayals? If you're considering moving to Boise, it's important to take a closer, more realistic look below. Boise's nightlife and entertainment scene. If you are someone who thrives on the energy of a big city, Boise might not be the place for you. While the city has grown in recent years, it still feels more like a big town with a small town vibe, which can be a downside for those used to the constant buzz and variety of larger urban areas. When it comes to nightlife, Boise offers limited options, especially on weekdays. If you're a night owl who likes to go out, you might find yourself disappointed. If you're looking for a high-energy, dynamic nightlife scene, you might quickly get burned out on what the city has to offer. If you want to catch an event or plan a night out, you need to plan ahead. Unlike cities where you can easily find something to do on a whim, Boise requires a bit more preparation. Whether it's checking event calendars for live performances or deciding what nights offer good entertainment. And last-minute date nights can also be a challenge. When it comes to local attractions, Boise offers a few, such as the Boise State campus for football and basketball games, some museums, botanical gardens. We have the hockey team and the old Idaho Penitentiary. While Boise has plenty to offer in terms of outdoor activities and natural beauty, if you're someone who enjoys vibrant, diverse nightlife and a range of entertainment, you might find the city's options a bit limiting. Boise's weather. Is it all it's cracked up to be? When people talk about Boise's weather, it's often painted as a perfect mix of 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. Now, while there's certainly something to appreciate about each season, Boise's weather can be tough to deal with. Winter in Boise can be a brutal affair. The city experiences cold temperatures, snow, and often long stretches of gray skies. While the surrounding mountains and foothills look picturesque covered in white snow, they can also appear pretty bleak the rest of the year. During much of the winter, the foothills and mountains can be a dull brown. But the real downside of Boise's winter comes with the inversions. Inversion season, which typically occurs during the colder months, can trap air pollution in the valley for days on end, creating a thick haze that makes the air quality downright terrible. The summer months in Boise can feel like a relentless, scorching affair. But it's not just the heat that makes summer tough, it's the smoke. Boise is surrounded by wilderness, and during fire season, which is often in late summer and early fall, smoke from wildfires, not only in Idaho, but also from neighboring states, can fill the valley. This smoky air can linger for weeks, drastically reducing air quality and making outdoor activities unpleasant. Now, while Boise does have some clear, sunny days, the reality is you might only experience about 4 months of good air quality throughout the year. The extremes of hot summers, smoky air, winters with inversions, and generally dry brown landscape for some can be difficult for those used to more temperate or predictable climates. You'll need to be okay with a landscape that's often covered in tumbleweeds, sagebrush, and cheatgrass, and be prepared for the possibility of having to hunker down indoors during smoky or inversion-filled stretches. Boise, a red state? Now, Boise offers a unique political climate that may take some getting used to, especially if you're moving from a more liberal or progressive area. Idaho as a whole is very conservative with a significant Republican presence in nearly all corners of the state. Over the years, Boise has started to stand out as a more liberal-leaning city within the state, with pockets of Democrats and progressives, particularly in areas like the North End, which is known for its more diverse and inclusive community. If you're coming from a more liberal area, you may find yourself feeling somewhat out of place or isolated, especially in more rural parts of the state where conservative values are more entrenched. It's not that being a liberal in Boise is impossible. It's just that the overall political landscape in Idaho can feel a bit one-sided, and you may find fewer people who share your views compared to what you're used to. One key aspect of life in Idaho that's important to understand, especially for newcomers, is the Second Amendment culture. Idahoans are deeply supportive of gun rights, and it's not uncommon for the state's gun culture to be a point of pride for many residents. This can be both a pro and a con, depending on your perspective. If you're someone who strongly values the right to own firearms, you may find the state's laws and the widespread gun ownership reassuring. The culture of gun ownership here is not just about hunting or sport shooting. It's deeply tied to personal freedom and self-defense. Check out my video, Idaho Gun Culture, for more information. Education in Boise. When it comes to education in Boise and Idaho, the overall picture isn't as rosy as you might hope. While there are some pockets of excellence, especially in certain school districts, the state's public schools in general face a number of challenges that can make it difficult for students to succeed and for parents to feel confident about their children's education. It's important to note that the quality of schools varies depending on the district. Some districts in and around Boise, like those in North Boise or Meridian, have schools that are relatively well-funded and offer good programs. Other districts in more rural areas or lower-income neighborhoods struggle with overcrowding, limited resources, and a lack of academic support, which can impact student performance. Teacher pay in Idaho is also an issue. Teachers here are among the lowest paid in the United States, which means that the state struggles to attract and retain highly qualified teachers, leading to high turnover rates in many schools. As Boise grows rapidly, its schools often don't keep pace with the increasing number of students. This leads to the larger class sizes, less individualized attention for students, and sometimes even fewer resources per student. If education is a priority for your family, it might be worth looking into private school options or considering how the local schools measure up based on your child's needs. Shopping. One of the challenges of living in a low population state like Idaho is the limited shopping options, particularly when it comes to the variety of stores you'd expect in a larger city. Boise has certainly seen growth and made strides in recent years, but the retail scene still hasn't caught up to what many people are used to in metropolitan areas. For general shopping, there's Boise Town Square Mall, the only indoor shopping mall in the area, which offers a standard mix of chain stores. While it's functional, it lacks the upscale or boutique shopping you might find in larger malls. If you prefer outdoor shopping, the Village at Meridian is a popular option, offering a range of stores, restaurants, and entertainment. It's definitely a step up from the typical retail experience in Boise, But again, it doesn't have the variety or luxury brands you might find in larger cities. As nice as these areas are, they don't make up for the lack of specialty stores or higher end options that people from bigger cities may expect. Let's look at isolation, transportation, and traffic. If you're considering moving to Boise, Idaho, it's important to understand the unique geography and infrastructure of the region. While Boise itself is a growing city, it can feel like a barren wasteland, a largely flat, rural area with some agriculture mixed in. One of the most significant downsides to living in Boise is its location. The next closest major metropolitan area is Salt Lake City, which is a minimum of 5 hours away by car. If you're looking to make a weekend trip to Portland, Oregon, you'll need to drive for at least 8 hours. And the Bay Area in California is 12 hours away by car. That means any sort of quick getaway or travel to a larger city requires a long drive, making Boise feel quite isolated from the other major urban hubs on the West Coast. The Boise metro area is relatively small compared to larger cities, and its international airport is also on the smaller side. While it does offer some direct flights, travelers may find themselves facing more connections and layovers than at larger airports. This can be a major inconvenience for frequent flyers, as travel time to and from Boise can be significantly longer than from more well-connected airports. Another downside is the lack of public transportation. While Boise has made strides in recent years, it still lacks a robust public transit system compared to many other cities in the U.S. There is no rail system, and the bus network is limited, especially for areas outside the downtown core. For most residents, having a personal vehicle is a necessity. While it's possible to get by without a car, if you live and work in downtown Boise, there are bike lanes are plentiful, but it's not a viable option for everyone. If you want to live in the suburbs or outlying areas of Boise, you're going to need a car. When it comes to traffic, Boise has experienced growing pains to the city's rapid population increase. Despite the expansion of the metro area, if you're a food lover and hoping for a wide range of dining experiences, Boise might leave you a bit disappointed. While the city is home to plenty of franchise restaurants, think of chain eateries like Olive Garden, and Buffalo Wild Wings, you'll quickly realize that the number of unique, high-quality, locally owned restaurants is limited. In recent years, Boise has seen a rise in trendy eateries and some local spots that add variety to the scene, offering options like craft cocktails, farm-to-table meals, or hip brunch spots. But overall, the culinary scene is still fairly average to subpar compared to larger cities with more diverse populations and restaurant options. Let's look at the job market and employment in Boise. Did you know Boise is a right-to-work state, which means employees can be terminated without notice or warning, which can make job security a concern for some. The overall job market in Boise is limited, and wages are significantly lower than in many other parts of the country. If you're moving to Boise, don't expect to find a high-paying job unless you bring your income with you. The job market, especially for well-paying positions, is quite sparse. For those hoping to find a job locally, it can be a real challenge. Boise's economy is still largely rooted in industries like farming, forestry, and some high-tech sectors, but the latter isn't dominant enough to offer substantial high-paying opportunities across the board. Another major issue is the lack of diverse job opportunities. While service industry positions are plentiful, jobs in non-service sectors like management, engineering, or creative professionals are fewer and far between. High-tech companies and startups are slowly making their mark in Boise, but they aren't creating enough well-paying jobs yet to offset the lack of opportunities in other sectors. If diversity is an important factor in where you choose to live, Boise might not be the best fit for you. Idaho as a whole is overwhelmingly white, with about 94% of the state's population identifying as Caucasian. While Boise has a slightly more diverse population than the rest of the state, it's still predominantly Caucasian, with around 88% of Boise's population identifying as white. While there are small and growing communities of people from different racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds, they still represent a relatively small portion of the population. Let's look at the cost of living. The cost of living in Boise has been rising steadily in recent years and shows no signs of slowing down. While the city has traditionally been more affordable compared to major metropolitan areas like San Francisco or Seattle, it has become increasingly expensive, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. Housing costs, in particular, have surged with the demand for homes outpacing supply, leading to higher rent prices and a competitive housing market. This increase in housing costs has made it more difficult for newcomers, particularly those moving from areas with lower living expenses, to find affordable places to live. For many, homeownership in Boise has become out of reach unless they are bringing a significant amount of wealth with them or securing a high-paying job. Aside from housing, other daily living expenses are also rising. For example, gas prices in Boise tend to be on the higher side compared to nearby states. While they are not as high as in California, they are noticeably more expensive than in surrounding states like Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. Grocery costs, utilities, and general goods are also experiencing upward pressure, contributing to an overall higher cost of living. Boise is becoming an increasingly desirable place to live, which has led to higher demand and consequently higher prices. As more people move to the area, especially from larger cities in search of a lower cost alternative, the growing demand for housing and services drives those prices up. This creates a paradox where Boise still has a relatively small town feel, but with the living costs more in line with larger urban centers. Is Boise right for you? There's no doubt that Boise has its charms. From its beautiful outdoor scenery to its tight-knit community, many people find the city a wonderful place to settle down. However, it's important to consider the challenges and limitations that come with living in a smaller, rapidly growing city that may not always meet expectations. If you're drawn to Boise for its best place to live reputation, make sure you're realistic about what that actually means. You may find the slower pace, limited amenities, or smaller job market less appealing than you imagined. Think carefully about whether Boise aligns with your lifestyle, work goals, and personal preferences. Every city has its pros and cons, and understanding both sides will help you make an informed decision.